Okay. Hi, everybody. I'm Sonny Alvarado. I am former SPJ President, 2012 to 2013. I'm a member of the SPJ Foundation Board, and I am on the board of the Arkansas Pro Chapter. Welcome to our meet and greet with our incoming SPJ National President, Chris Vaccaro. Those of you who might not know a little bit about him, he's probably the most overproductive person I know. He's the VP of Digital for Ark Media. He's also an adjunct associate professor at Hofstra University. He's general manager of an FM station, which is the student radio station at Sachem. Is it Sachem?
Sachem.
Sachem High School on Long Island, where he went to school, and he now runs the media program there. And not to brag on him, but he's written 10 books, and he's also produced 9 documentaries. He's won lots of Emmy Awards and non-Murrow Awards. But hey, he's just a regular guy from Long Island. So, Chris, do you have anything else to add as an introductory?
Well, first of all, I appreciate you hosting. Introductory, I think, just underscoring the SPJ background, right? So I've been a member of SPJ for over 15 years, and I've climbed that proverbial ladder from the local chapter with the Press Club of Long Island as a board member, as a committee member, as a past president, then as an associate regional coordinator, as the regional coordinator, as an at-large member, and seeing every step of how things work and operate. And I'm sure we'll talk about it, but I believe the lifeblood of SPJ comes from those local chapters. I don't believe there is an SPJ without what people do at the local level, and I'm a product of that. I wouldn't be here on this call. I wouldn't have climbed that ladder and wanting to be involved on a national level without what I experienced on Long Island. So that's more than any of the other stuff I've done or presently do. What I did at PCLI really impacted me greatly. So I'm happy to be here and happy to chat with everybody.
Okay. Before I forget, this program is sponsored by SPJ New England. Our good friends up there. They're one of the more active chapters in SPJ. I really appreciate them doing this. And well, Chris, why don't we start by, why don't you tell me a little bit about your ideas for increasing national programming, since that's I think a hot topic among a lot of folks these days.
Yeah. Well, first of all, as we embark on just 1 month left of Emily Block's term as president, I'm starting to put some things into motion to make sure that I can hit the ground running with that board and over the next calendar year. One of the things I've seen the last few years is a lack of national programming for several reasons, for resources, for different priorities, for stabilizing several areas of SPJ. But we're really as strong as the professional development education workshops that we can develop. And getting back to that initial thought about how our local chapters do an incredible job, they haven't lost track of programming at the local level. So I really want to be able to harness what they're doing locally and give it national marketability. And so, working now to look at a programming calendar on a national scale that's backed and almost maintained by what's happening locally. And some of that is just bringing higher on the surface what's happening in these different regions. Some of it is empowering national and SPJ HQ to figure out their resources and bring back some national programs. Some of those items are larger scale. I really would love to bring back the idea of the SPJ Leadership Institute. When I was a member or a part of that, the Scripps Institute was powerful for me as an SPJ leader, and I want to bring something like that back. Now that's a loaded statement because there's things that have to be done: partnerships, funding, where are the resources coming from, where does it get hosted? And so to achieve that, we've already started discussions about all of those things. And I know Sonny will ask about partnerships and different things that may be on the horizon. But just to answer the question and to reiterate, yes, bringing back the idea of a national programming schedule that is marketable so that you can see it on all social platforms, that if it's digital, you'll know about it well in advance, that it gives credit to the local chapters for the work that they're already doing in incredible droves. Honestly, there's really great things happening across the country. We have to let the rest of the country know about it. And also, we don't have yet a perfect answer for what the conference may or may not look like in 2026, but that's a piece of the programming. And so there's elements there that we have to immediately start talking about with Caroline and SPJ HQ. We're not obviously ready to share what that national programming calendar or schedule looks like yet, but there'll be more about that as we're actively planning behind the scenes of what Q4 of 2025 looks like. And again, great work already being done by a bunch of volunteers who care about education, professional development, and bringing really great people together with like minds and like spirits, right?
Yeah, yeah. Um, One thing just off uh, my observation is, New England's chapter has done a great job of promoting its programming across outside of the region. And I'm hoping that, national can help other local chapters kind of copy or mimic some of that concept, some of that energy. I would like to see that. So,
That's
uh,
not too far off from some of the where this
mhm,
ideology is coming from. I mean, credit to Adam, of course, who's lurking in the shadows on this call. But he's the reason why we're talking is because Adam has the idea of nationalizing local conversations. Normally in journalism, we're talking about localizing a national issue, but we want to take the local effort and work and make everybody across the country see it. So there's going to be a lot more of that. And if we do it right, there's going to be communication with the regional coordinators to make sure that everybody in their regions understands how to say, hey, we have something really great going on. Let's bring that to the forefront and make sure everybody sees it. And if we can do it in advance and let people know, like, okay, we're planned out for January, February, March of next year, and we know we're all going to be on these events. And if we can, hell, if we can do something physical and we say every quarter in a specific region where we're looking to get as many SPJ members down to this thing in Chicago or that thing in Florida.
mhm,
I mean, that's still really being scoped out. I don't have
right,
a
right,
concrete mechanism for that. And obviously, asking people to travel is a whole nother ballgame, but at least people could know within their region there's a lot of things going on. And that's we got to do a better job of that. And that's very much high on my priority list to hitting the ground and really actually 1 month from today.
okay. There's been a lot of discussion, almost there was discussion when I was president about, SPJ advocacy efforts. And there have been a lot of ideas over the years of, having regular visits with Congress people, uh, or, having an actual advocacy office in DC for the national level. What are your thoughts about advocacy and advancing SPJ's advocacy role during your term?
Yeah, and advocacy has been that key word that has stemmed from the strategic conversation and strategic pillars that were spoken about when Caroline Hendry originally took over and had sort of a commission committee to talk about where does SPJ go. Everybody agreed, advocacy is important, right? But then that's a broad sentiment. It's now what do we do with advocacy? And knowing that it was important to Caroline and concurrently important to a majority of the membership, that has now become paramount in, all right, put the programming aside. How do we advocate in an effective way? And what we've realized, I mean, I had a really good, I guess I'd say powerful discussion with Caroline at the Region 1 conference in New York City in the spring. And people need resources and to understand how to advocate. Right. It's the idea of like just raising our hands and saying there's a problem or we don't believe in something or we do believe in something. That's not necessarily good enough all the time. There needs to be a coordinated, cohesive effort to do it together. There needs to be how do you do it at a local level versus what Caroline and the SPJ HQ crew were working on. There needs to be more of an emphasis where every discussion that is had at a national level, let alone a local level, has
Mhm.
advocacy in mind. And this has been an issue with SPJ in recent years or maybe not recent years, but in this like more modern era where it tries to be too much. Who are we serving? What is the purpose? What is the mission? And if we can just get back to basics with advocacy, we need to. Now, to do that, it's not just going to be part of the conversation. We have now put the groundwork in to have an advocacy committee. Frank Lamonti, who's been really great and just gung ho about spearheading that and making sure that it's a part of the national conversation. There will be programming related to advocacy. There will be strategic plans developed on how to take a 3, 6, 12 month, let's just knock it out of the park. And while all that has happened, those discussions from Caroline and Frank and myself and even Emily and the current board, Caroline has done a lot of advocacy, making sure that the statements are out there, making sure that SPJ has signed on to several different letters and moments in time in the last just 6 to 9 months where we are advocating for journalists and journalism and free speech and freedom of the press. And so there's been a lot of it, but I think we need to take that step further where it's not just SPJ proper, it's the local chapters advocating on a proper, consistent, cohesive way. And if they are advocating on the local level, we need to open up the chain of communication so that everybody sees it. Yes, we pat ourselves on the back, but also, all right, if we see that, one region and one chapter doing it, another chapter could be educated and go through that whole process and figure out how to do it themselves. That's the collective movement that if everyone's sharing strategy, tactics, using the same playbook, hell, having a playbook related to advocacy, those are things that we're actively talking about now. And
Yeah.
we got to do it quick. It's, I don't,
Yeah.
I'm very much, I understand I have a year in my tenure, in my term, and I don't want that to be, well, we'll get to it after the new year. We got to go right after it. So having a designated committee for advocacy, I think is important. And by the way, people don't know my sort of, nonprofit leadership philosophy and ideology. I don't like committees in general. Half the time, it's just a bunch of people that say they're on a committee and don't do anything. But
Right.
these people raised their hand with the idea and said, we need to do this. We need to have consistent, meaningful conversations about advocacy. And I said, only if you come back with something tangible that will lead to change and progress and education and just resourceful tools for our members, our SPJ members. That's got to be the goal. And everything I say on this call, I'm gonna end or preface with a lot more to come. I don't mean to talk in broad strokes, but I'm not president yet. And so, we're doing the groundwork, and then, I'll have a lot more to share after whatever, October 17th, 18th.
Right. Well, and that's part of the SPJ tradition. The incoming president usually behind the scenes is involved in a lot of laying the groundwork for when they actually take the reins. Plus, in my experience, there was a period where Dave Coulier and John Enslin and we basically were president in a 3-year period, and we knew that we needed to develop a plan, knowing that one of us would carry on at least part of the other one's agenda, so that there wasn't a disconnect when the new president took over. So I'm hoping to see that continue going forward. And it's good to hear you say that you've been involved in some discussions. Before I forget,
And to that point, go ahead. You touch your point. Yeah.
well, I was just going to say, I just wanted to remind folks, if you have questions for Chris, please feel free to put it in the chat, and I'll pass them on as you put them in. Go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, and on to that point of that sort of leadership consistency and making sure there's not this gap in getting things done. I've seen it now from Ashanti to Emily to myself. And Emily and I talk every week, text. We're on calls with Caroline every week together. Whomever wins the VP and the president-elect election, I would carry that on. I feel like there has been a bit of continuity. Now, there have been different issues that Ashanti has faced versus Emily, and of course, there's always something lurking behind the corner that
Believe
I'm
me.
ready to help with as I see, the role is as much about triage as it is being progressive and hopefully making change. But I do believe there was a good passing of the baton in that um, we're actively communicating with the people that need to be involved, and the stakeholders all know each other, and I believe get along with each other. And so, but I don't, I'm not a stagnant type of leader. I want to make some things happen. I want to have, if there's a couple of things to achieve and say, all right, I can hang my hat on that for the sake of SPJ and its membership, that has to happen. I will not spend the next year idly waiting for the term to end. I will say I'm ready for the term to end, knowing we achieved some things. And as you're hearing, I mean, we educate programs, advocacy, figuring out the next plan for the conference, making sure that we can somehow get a leadership institute back. There's a lot. There's a lot. So,
All right. Well, we have our first question from the audience. How can a new SPJ college chapter better establish themselves on a campus and increase membership? This comes from University of Dayton, SPJ member, I imagine, Lauren McCarty. Thank you, Lauren. Do you have any suggestions, Chris?
first of all, that's awesome. I love new chapters. I love all our SPJ college chapters. I love that a new chapter usually has a really good energy to get some things done. Once you get over that hump of being approved and getting your leadership in place, it's full steam ahead. So, you got to make it a priority. I know that college students are very busy. I know that the advisors on college campuses are very busy, but spend a lot of time planning. And part of that planning needs to be the membership drive mentality. It's every single event that allows clubs or co-curriculars or journalism organizations to be there. You need to be front and center. Can you sponsor events? Can you host events? Can you have all the professors, both full-time and adjunct, promote and pitch the fact that the organization exists? To do anything successful nowadays, you have to have some sort of marketing cap. Yeah, we love journalism, we love storytelling, we love this, the ethics of it all, but you got to be a marketer. Yeah, especially if you're promoting SPJ and you want to grow membership, you got to let people know it exists. Take advantage of the ability to somehow get in every student's inbox or every student's back end communication system, whatever that may be. Every school is a little different. Any type of event where, or even where there's a placard, where there's something that lists the school papers and the radio stations and the television stations, those media organizations. Make sure your logo is there. Make sure you can send a representative to be a speaker. Make sure that you can go and send student leaders and volunteers into the classes as guest speakers just for 5 minutes to start. And I know all this. I've done all this as the former advisor at Hofstra Chapter, which I resurrected and was an advisor for I think, 10 years. And the only way to do it is you really need obviously a very good, strong student leader and hopefully board. And you really need an advisor that's willing to make that a priority. So, I mean, I know I'm rattling off a few different things there, but that sort of really good communication and really good work ethic between the people who are hoping that it succeeds. And when you think, all right, great, we got some members and we had a really great year, somebody may be graduating. So you have to make sure there's this succession so that it doesn't die. Inevitably, every college chapter in the country has gone through that. You have strong leaders, you may have no leaders, you may have somebody that's just keeping it on life support. And then once you do all those things, which is really simply visibility, branding, membership type activities, how do you make the chapter stand out, right? I mean, I don't like to just have a chapter. I don't want to just have a chapter with members. What are the activities, the activations, the educational moments that just make your chapter crush what the purpose and mission is and crush in a positive way and stand out and be the best student chapter in Ohio and be the best student chapter in the Midwest and then beat all these other chapters as the best in the country? So you should be competitively analyzing what every chapter is doing across your peer groups in colleges across the country, but also look at what the pro chapters are doing and try to mimic their programming. Try to figure out how to get the proper guest speakers and do the proper digital events and do the proper fundraising. There's no perfect way to do that, but it's okay to steal ideas from each other. It's okay to say, oh, I saw the Florida chapter do this. I saw the Hofstra chapter do that. Take the idea, make it yours, and make it better. If you do all those things, that also inherently raises the bar and the visibility on campus. You want the dean to talk about it, the vice dean, the chair of the department. You got to get those stakeholders on your campus to buy into it too. So you should invite them to the events. They should be guest speakers. They should sign off on, maybe grants for your organization to go and do some things together. But I love the fact that you're all about it. I love the fact that it could be a household name on your campus. And when you have really cool, great programming ideas, reach out to me directly and let me promote it at the national level. Let me get you some love that you deserve because you're working hard. Like this does not have to be an isolated experience. And that, I mean, obviously, there's people from probably many areas of the country on this call. The same goes for you and your chapters. I'm here to support that and bring visibility. And one note to SPJ HQ could get you Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, newsletter highlights, for a week. Really, I mean, it doesn't take too much. Just a little communication.
Okay. Um, I think one thing, well, let me segue into, I was about to ask you something else, but let me segue into, since this idea of what campus chapters can do, what can pro chapters expect from your presidency in terms of support?
Similar vein of please allow us to help in terms of letting us know what events are going on that we can market ahead of time, that we can send representatives ahead of time, that we can use our network of contacts and journalists and media executives to maybe facilitate conversations in your regions. That's just from a programming perspective. When it comes to advocacy, it's going to be a situation by situation, case, right? If there's something specific in your region that you're saying, hey, we would like SPJ proper's national support, don't hesitate. Caroline, myself, Jennifer Royer, and the whole staff is at our local chapter's disposal for support. We need to view SPJ HQ as a big resource for the local chapters, and we must support the local chapters as much as we possibly can. I mean, obviously, if there's finance or resources involved, and there's a specific process. There's a grant process related to the SPJ Foundation and a timeline for that. So that, it's not like we can open up a checkbook and help that way. But between, promoting what's going on at the local level, serving as a sounding board if there's ever a discussion to be had because there's just somebody that needs help and support. And also, listen, there's a lot of great things that do happen. Sometimes people lose sight of the fact that there are committees to be involved in, that there are regional coordinators that are there to help, that there are the local chapters in those the local college chapters that are feeder systems for the local pro chapters. I would love to be able to help facilitate more connectivity between that. I don't have an answer of how to do all of that yet. I mean, I think a lot about it, but we're here and we need to put the local chapters first. And we need to do that by sharing the events that they're having, sharing events amongst each other so you could take those ideas and run with it. And, just really be there as a resource for them, not as a hindrance.
If I can, you touched on a subject that I really have some passion for, which is collaboration and cooperation between college chapters and pro chapters. And I don't think SPJ Arkansas is original with this idea, but one thing that's been successful for us has been ice cream socials. We'll arrange to go to a college campus and bring ice cream, and then just have not just have a social event with the members of the college chapter, but also, have, set up a program of a speaker of some sort that kind of gets pro and journalism students together on, to recognize our commonalities. So,
Who doesn't love ice cream? But
yeah,
no,
exactly.
I view it like a minor league baseball team with a major league team in an affiliate, right? There's this ability to bring people up. There's a lot of talented college students that, yeah, they're looking for jobs, but while hopefully they stay in the industry and in that market, they should be going from the Hofstra chapter to the Press Club of Long Island chapter, in my local region. And The same should be everywhere. That's what keeps our membership numbers growing. That's what keeps the pro memberships and pro chapters in a way that is something to strive for continuous growth over time. And there's plenty of journalism programs out there. There's plenty of SPJ college chapters out there. We have to facilitate that, and I think there's more resources needed just from a pure that ice cream social. How are there programs and communicative events that we can bring those chapters together? A lot of times they coexist, but they don't work together. And I see it on Long Island. Sometimes I see it in other regions. There's more there. There's definitely more there to unpack and figure out how they can all march in the same direction.
Okay. Let's move on to a couple of more serious topics. One is, what do you see, or where do you see potential for partnerships with other journalism organizations and SPJ?
Serious but fun. That's a fun topic because I do believe there's a lot of momentum that can be had when two or more organizations can work together with a similar cause. I would love SPJ to be partnered and tied to larger institutions from a higher education perspective. I would love it from, I mean, I don't know, I can't sit here and say, oh, SPJ should go do a partnership with ONA or RTDNA, but I do believe there are discussions that have started, and there are some ideas being floated and people talking now to align with SPJ and for SPJ to align with some organizations that are doing some innovative work in journalism education, in advocacy, like-minded. Support can go both ways, especially from an ideology and somewhat of a resource perspective, but it's more about putting the pieces together. And I believe it's where SPJ needs to go because it's going to help with marketability, visibility, branding, tying its a historic organization like SPJ that has continued to find itself and has stabilized somewhat in the last couple of years. It's not good enough. There needs to be innovation in who we align with, innovation in the products that we offer our memberships, innovation in research that can be done, through partnerships and through other institutions. I think we have to be innovative in how that can allow us to do programming and how it can allow us to learn more about advocacy that could benefit us and our members. Those partnerships can also be physical places of benefit. Should we be hosting our conferences at some place specific? Should we be hosting more regionalized conferences and focus? I know we have regional conferences, so that don't think that I don't understand the current structure of conferences, but I have a vision for something related to sort of quarterly, regionally stimulating conversations and workshops and seminars in a way that I think aligns with other partner institutions, and I can't achieve that in 1 year, but I can put the groundwork in place.
Right.
I don't want to say quickly, but I think there's a lot to be had there. It's very powerful, and I think it would be a shot in the arm for us in a really positive way.
Yeah. Yeah. That's an interesting concept. That would, if I'm reading you correctly, that would, having some sort of quarterly regional gathering, in conjunction with some, educational institution or some other organization, which would bring about a conversation, both, regionally specific, but also broaden the national organization's horizons, I think. So.
Literally, that's kind of I've been toying with that idea, and I kept it to myself. This is something that popped up probably in the last 6 months. I'm just I kept it to myself. I did bring it up to Caroline in my conversations. I'll be honest with Adam. He had a similar thought, and I said, okay, if I'm thinking like this and Adam's thinking like this, I know there's other people that are probably saying, well, bottom line is we got to retool what we do. We could try something different. But I'm still very much about growing the national brand from a regional and local perspective. So when we got to bring people together, we got to do it physically in some cases. I know digital and Zoom is very easy to do, but I think there's a mechanism here that could be really beneficial. But I do think it becomes much easier with a partner institution. That's
Right.
where, maybe we're not, maybe there's no cost for the facility, and maybe the guest speakers and lecturers are the people who may teach there. You kind of see where I'm going with that.
Sure. Sure. Hell, and in some regions, you've got actual, people who've written books about journalism subjects or subjects that would be of interest to journalism, journalists. So, yeah,
Well, I mean, every region
I
has TV
yeah,
stations, newspapers, and journalism schools, and retirees, and
right,
like we got a little bit everything everywhere. If we just put it all
right,
together, it makes sense.
yeah. That's yeah. I like that idea. So, it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Um,
I agree.
Another question, has one of the biggest challenges facing newsrooms is repetitive turnover as journalists leave the industry due to burnout, low wages, lack of advancement, et cetera, not to mention layoffs. Uh, that was my editorial comment. What conversations, if any, are happening around advocacy with industry owners and leadership to create a path forward to keep young professionals in newsrooms longer? That's a heavy question.
It's very. I don't know if I'm going to be able to solve that in the next year, but I think
Right.
it's a fantastic question because it's very real. It's a real issue facing tens of thousands of people, right? I mean,
Mhm.
and I know many people working in newsrooms just on Long Island alone, where I live, that are, ready to leave, have left, or are nervous that they won't be asked to stay. And so I think we have to have meaningful conversations related to advocacy, um, but also, we can't impact how a news company is going to operate when it comes to revenue and budgets. It's a business. And some of
Right.
these businesses are hemorrhaging money and they're not making revenue. And I think we need to advocate for those people so they know that, there's a way for them to maybe stay in the industry and so that they can take care of themselves financially. I think there's a piece of advocacy there. It's almost like, lessons on life and financial management and setting yourself up for success. And yeah, it's very difficult though. It's a muddled statement I'm even making because I don't think there's a perfect answer for it. It's something that I've already just copied and pasted and put that question on a sticky note on my desktop because I want to ask that advocacy committee if there's something we can do related to that. It's always going to be shaky grounds, but I also think that we need to do a better job as an industry, I would say, on innovating ourselves as much as news companies need to innovate themselves. And by that I mean staying ahead of the curve on specific trends related to storytelling and not feeling comfortable to stay in the same spot, in the same city, in the same news company forever. And so, there's a piece of that it's personal. There's a piece of that I do believe the more innovative newsrooms are able to stay ahead of the curve and generate different forms of revenue to keep their employees intact. That we're getting into a larger discussion about the media ecosystem and landscape, which
Yep.
I love speaking about. In fact, I'm doing my doctoral studies and dissertation on the impact of innovation in newsrooms through professional development. And my research is, I'm assuming I'm not fully done with it. It's if you don't have leaders who foster environments of innovation, those newsrooms cannot grow, they cannot generate revenue, and people will get laid off, and those media companies die. So again, larger issue here, but I do,
Yeah, that's a macro world issue. Yeah,
yeah,
well, and I worked for most of my career, in traditional newspaper environment. The My previous employer was and is a dominant newspaper in a small state, but they had to really adjust the way they run their operation. And now I work for a nonprofit, so that's a whole other model. So yeah,
right.
it's you know you know if I can take the time to respond a little bit to that question,
Of course.
I've seen a lot of younger journalists leave the business. You know, one because of low wages, two because I lost three really really good investigative journalists who decided they could not raise a family on money they were making, or with the hours they had to keep. And they ended up going into government PI work, PI public relations work. So yeah. But the thing is, if you have a passion and a commitment for what journalism role is in a democracy, then you'll find a way to make it work somehow. So that's not anyway. Let me move on to another question, which is SPJ's survival and its business model. You know, 2 years ago, I think it was 2 years ago, the foundation helped SPJ out of a financial jam by agreeing to a memorandum of understanding to provide funds for a certain period of time to help SPJ recover and reorganize. What's the status of that memorandum of understanding and progress on, getting SPJ in a more sound position?
Yeah, no, great question. From one loaded question about sustainability in the industry to sustainability of SPJ. Yeah, the memorandum of understanding was when it began in the 2024 budget for a term of 4 budget years. So we're in the middle of it. We're in the middle of the MOU. Obviously, the MOU is really important from bringing in revenue to the society just to operate it and keep it going and keep it afloat and making sure that they're able to do what has been done the last couple of years, keep the lights on, basically. In that time, SPJ has, I've used the term a couple of times on this call, stabilized a bit. There's some leadership issues, and then we brought Caroline Hendry in as the executive director, and we brought Sarah Catania became the secretary treasurer, and there has been really good discussions and really good consistency and really good note sharing and budget sharing and transparency. So everyone has been able to see on our quarterly board meetings what's going on. So all that information is available, and you can go on spj.org and see it and listen back and what has happened. Yeah, all the great stuff that has happened, thanks to Sarah and Caroline and Emily and even Ashanti before that. It doesn't mean SPJ is flush with cash following the end of the MOU. So we're still grateful for the MOU, but the future is unknown. And I know they have SPJ has Lucas Metropolis working on business development, fundraising, and trying to get grants and trying to bring in money from donors and sponsors, especially related to Media Fest that's coming up. It's still not allowing SPJ to be flush with millions or hundreds of thousands. We're in this spot where there's no perfect answer for what happens when the MOU runs out. Does this society merge in some sense with the foundation? Some people would cringe at me saying that. Some people would say, yeah, that should happen. It's got to be a very big debate.
Right.
And I'm
Will
not
be a
sharing.
big debate.
I'm not sharing at all how I feel about that, but it's a very logical. We know we're headed in that direction because I don't see the floodgates opening, and I don't see SPJ getting some massive financial upswing. Membership is now, it has increased in the time since the membership system has been fixed and updated, and so the numbers are tracked in a better way. So I believe the national membership number is over 3,800. It's pale in comparison, though, to what it once was, right? So, yes, if we can get membership to increase, then that will increase revenue. But are we going to get SPJ membership to over 5,000, let alone 10,000 people? That's a really tall order. I don't know if that will happen. It won't happen in the next year, I'm sure. I mean, hell, I'd
Right.
love to be able to say I'm ending my term with SPJ membership over 5,000 again. Like that'd be great. And
That would be great.
you might say, "Well, is that possible?" Well, anything is possible. If we continue to raise all the boats with the visibility and the branding and the partnership and the aligning with other institutions and allowing us to work against all these things we're mentioning, different partners, different institutions, different regions, different mechanisms of getting SPJ out there, inherently that would raise all boats. It would raise all
Mhm.
sails, put everybody in the right direction. That everything has to work perfectly, and then you also still need to bring in more revenue and more sponsors and more donors. I
Yeah.
think we have the right people. I think we have a good working order that, we're through some of the issues from 2 years ago, 3 years ago. Um, Still don't know what the magic ball is going to say for 2027, 2028. The president after me, it becomes an even bigger challenge. And I believe the president after that is the most difficult tenure, I believe.
Yeah. Well, at least it sounds like you're, optimistic about the future, even if you can't read the crystal ball
I'm
yet.
optimistic based on what I've experienced. I'm optimistic because I always am. I'm glass half full, but I'm also very honest, right? Like if I didn't think we were in a better position than we were when I became VP and when I became first and at-large director, I would tell you. I would say, yeah, I don't see it, but I think we're in a and Sarah Catania, and not just her as the secretary treasurer, but her finance committee and the commitment and the discussions that have gone into what has made up these budgets, and definitely taking an approach of, well, okay, we can't spend there, we shouldn't spend there, we need to be conservative about this. Those are all real conversations that have been had, and I've been on those meetings, and it's good to see. And there's people, like Matt Hall, who's on the SPJ Foundation. He's also on the SPJ Finance Committee, and people are seeing both sides of what's going on. And there's some good leaders that have been in really good positions, former SPJ presidents like yourself that kind of see what's happening. And it's not that it's not dire, because we know that there's some tough decisions ahead, I'm sure. But I do believe the right people are having the right conversations at the right time, and that makes me feel better than not.
A question from Laura Downey is what is your commitment to diversity, and what is SPJ doing to promote diversity in newsrooms uh, and as an organization?
Yeah, it's one of the core values of SPJ. It's one of the core values in what our staff is looking at from a programming perspective. I believe it should be a present aspect of our both advocacy and educational efforts. I believe it's something that I hope is being stimulated for discussion and growth at the local level, which would hopefully allow us to promote it nationally. The and everything that we do, the conversations that we have, the workshops that we have, the conferences that we have, I believe SPJ does a good job of staying true to talking about diversity, equity, and inclusion. I do believe it'll remain a part of the conversation. And I hope it does. So we can only control so much at the national level, but I hope it does at the local level. I hope it does at the college chapter level. And it's a good question. It's a very present, real topic, and SPJ will be committed to that. And I know Caroline Hendry would very much agree to that as well, and her staff. Oh, and as in organization via partnerships. Well, same deal. It's same applies. Any partnerships that we have, anything we do, it'll be an important piece of it as well. Oh, you're muted. Oh,
I had muted myself because my air conditioner was running in the background, and I didn't I didn't want it to overcome the rest of the feed. I was just going to make an editorial comment that, particularly in the, national political atmosphere regarding diversity, equity, and inclusion, I think it's even more important than ever for SPJ to maintain its commitment to diversity uh, and fostering diversity. Um, we're getting close to the 45-minute mark, and um, I thought I'd give you an opportunity for, saying anything else you think folks need to know about your plans for the presidency and SPJ that I haven't asked.
We really have touched on a lot of things. I very much want to figure out that plan to bring back a leadership institute. I believe that what I experienced with the Scripps Institute, really empowered me as a leader. I was a leader then, but even a bigger, stronger future leader. I see that we have a lack of depth when it comes to being interested in being an SPJ leader. And I think that's because there's a lot of different issues that SPJ has faced and been in the news itself about. And I would love to really have uh, a core group of people that are hungry to just keep serving. I'm big on the bench and the depth chart and making sure there's people coming next, because if there's not, then, you see a bunch of uncontested elections. You see a bunch of people that are like, I don't know if I really want to be involved in this. You see membership dropping. So I think it really increases all those areas. And so that's really important for me. And I've expressed that to Caroline. It's something I've expressed to Emily is too, saying, hey, no matter how early I'm starting as a VP and president-elect, I want you to know this is something I want to talk about now to get ahead of it for, October or November of 2025. And the the rest of it, like, I don't have any cards I'm holding back, right? Like there's an emphasis on advocacy, so we're launching a committee. There's an emphasis on national programming. We're going to have a national programming committee. There's some new committee chairs that will be announced in October. Some committees have done nothing, and we'll get rid of some committees as well. It's not uncommon, by the way. I'm not going to talk about who will be appointed in certain at-large positions yet, and that'll all happen in due time. We are actively planning and finalizing some of the things that SPJ is involved with from the Media Fest perspective. Obviously, SPJ is one of 3 organizations that have partnered to do that. We're happy some of the numbers continue to increase for people going to Washington, D.C. in October for Media Fest. We're looking forward to seeing as many SPJ members as we can there. So if you see me walking around, please grab me, say hi. Actively, again, talking about what does a conference look like in 2026. I don't believe it will look like 2025. I don't believe it's the Media Fest setup again. I would agree. I would imagine Caroline agrees with that, and I agree. I imagine the other organizations probably agree with that as well. So we'll see what that means. And I kind of alluded to some of those regional partnership type ideas, and I'd like to finalize some things. And I'm open for communication. I'm easy to find, easy to reach out to. I want to have meaningful conversations. I would love to visit every region in my year. I live in New York. I live on Long Island. I have 3 little kids, and my wife is a saint for all the things that I do. So I really do want to make it a priority, though, to get out to as many regions as I can. I'll bring my wife if I have to. I don't know if you want to bring the kids. That'll be chaos.
Hey, the more the merrier.
Get down to Arkansas with Sunny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm excited. I'm empowered. I feel good. I feel grateful for my partnership with Emily over the last year, and I am excited about many of the people running for the positions. I know Nicole and Adam very well, so I'm looking forward to working with either of them. And whichever one doesn't win the election, we'll be very involved anyway, because I know they both love SPJ, and it has been a really important part of their lives. And likewise with many of the at-large director people, candidates people, and I know most of them, and then many of them have been regional coordinators, and some of them haven't, but everyone hopefully is marching in the same direction. So, what do we got here? One comment. Chiming in from Indy, we will have a program in November featuring a finance pro who will talk about managing student loans, home ownership, life bills on a journo salary.
All
Practical,
right.
resourceful. Adam, take that note down. We're going to make that a national program, and we're going to share that everywhere. And that's going to be one of the items listed on our programming calendar. Mark my words. We will do a job. Oh, we have here SPJ New England's doing a Zoom event. CNN's John Miller. Anyone who's interested, please email me. Yeah, of course. Everything Adam does is awesome. Gets people talking, and that's not, by the way, it's not a campaign pitch for Adam. I'm just saying he does a really good job with
Well, no,
program.
yeah.
I'm going to be neutral here.
I can vouch for that historically, Adam.
Yeah. So
All
I mean,
right.
I think I said all I got for you now, but I think there's a lot of great things ahead. And again, I'm going to put my email in the chat. Please, if
Please
anybody
do.
needs me, reach out.
Once again, thanks for joining us tonight, everyone. And thank you, Chris, for being so open and willing to answer questions. I appreciate being invited to act as host and moderator. And I hope to see all of you in DC for Media Fest. Thank you.
Awesome. Thanks, Sonny. And I appreciate people like Sonny who came before me. I really care about people who have served as SPJ presidents. knowing that I will step into that role. I have a great appreciation for history and where we come from, and understanding that we can't progress and go forward without understanding where we've been. And Sonny's a part of that story. So I'm just grateful he was able to take time to talk to me, and his leadership always means a great deal.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Oh, and yes, Claire Reagan is on this call.
Yeah. Hey, Claire.
From Region 1 from New York. Ciao, Claire. Good to see you on here. I'm glad you can make it as well.
Okay. Adam, if it's okay, I'll go ahead and shut us down.